let's begin. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Davinder Dami, a Managing Director and founder of Zander Hendricks Healthcare. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Dr. Brendan Lavery from the Western Health and Social Care Trust, my wonderful colleague, Adele Humphrey, one of our directors. The brief process or a format of today will be, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Zander Hendricks Healthcare, why we're here, why we're facilitating this. And then Dr. Lavery will talk about emergency medicine, hopefully covering a number of topics that you guys want covered. And if there isn't, if it's not covered, please do put your questions in the chat element and we'll be sure to get to them. And then after Brendan, we'll go on to Adele, who will be telling us why the Western Trust is such a wonderful place to work and a bit about the processes of registering and all the support that we can give you along with the Western Trust on your journey. So there we are. So let's begin. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Zander Hendricks. So we're specialists in international medical recruitment. We've used our expertise to help thousands of medical professionals fulfill their career ambitions. We were formed in 2013 and have a proven track record of placing doctors and nurses and allied health professionals into permanent and fixed-term roles in the NHS. When we were formed, there were two core principles that we adhere to. And the first one being we must save the NHS money. And the second one being we must support our candidates pre and post placement. I'm delighted to say that we achieved this year on year and are getting better at it as we go as well, which is great. And next slide, please. Ellen, next slide, please. Wonderful. So over the last decade or so, we've been we have been very successful and we've been recognised for our work. Most recently being awarded the following awards: most innovative medical recruitment agency, most trusted medical recruitment specialists. And I believe trusted is quite an important word here because in this market, trust is very valuable. We also been recognised as the medical recruitment agency of the year. We're also members of the REC, which is the Recruitment and Employment Confederation. And along with all our work over the decade or so, we've been allocated parts on different frameworks, such as the LPP, the Workforce Alliance, and the Capital Nurse Project, and most recently, and proudly, Northern Ireland International Framework. Another element that Zander Hendricks have undertaken is supporting our candidates on IELTS and OET. We know that that's a really big part of the jigsaw that you're putting together, passing those English language tests, and we're here to guide and support you through that. And of course, that's free of charge. Which is again just one of the many things that we support our candidates with. Also, it's a really important part of what we do is the pastoral support. This is something we learned very quickly when we began how important it is, how vital it is to support our candidates and their families to make sure that they have the best chance of success. It's a model that's now been followed across Northern Ireland and also the rest of the NHS, many trusts using our processes to support candidates better, which is wonderful. It's a great impact that we're making. We're proud of that. Now, most importantly, it's our work with the Western Trust. We've just been awarded a continuation of our contract as sole supplier with the Western Trust, and it's a wonderful partnership, placing nearly up to 200 candidates within the trust. And it really is a partnership. We're working with a forward-thinking trust that really puts candidates and the international medical graduates first who join them. So that's why we're here facilitating this. And now what I'll do is pass over to Dr. Lavery to tell us and to talk about emergency medicine. So over to you, Dr. Lavery. Brendan, are you there?
Mute, that would help. Can you hear me now, Davinder?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Over to you.
No problem. Okay, so we're going to just talk briefly about emergency medicine in the UK and really what the job's about. So emergency medicine within the UK is actually one of the newest specialties. It's only really been around since about the mid-1980s. We now have our own Royal College. There are multiple roles at multiple levels Every significant hospital has an emergency department, and it is quite a rewarding job to work in, because basically you get to see such a huge variety, from patients with minor injuries to those who are medically unwell to those with significant trauma. You'll also see social work issues. You'll see patients who've got primary care issues. There's a huge wide variety of patients that you will get to see. Now, within the UK, standard pathway as such for junior doctors would be that they graduate from medical school. They complete their foundation years. That's foundation year 1 and foundation year 2. And then at that point in time, they can apply for a specialty job, which basically means that they will have a formal training role in emergency medicine. The training program lasts a total of 6 years. And during that time, initially, you'll start off working in acute medicine, anesthetics, and ICU. You'll also spend some time in theatres learning how to improve your airway skills and intubations, kind of before you return back to the emergency department, where you can use a lot of these new skills that you've basically acquired over your early years. During the 3rd year of your UK training, you're expected to work in a paediatric emergency department to help with basically how you can deal with sick children and children who have significant trauma. And then your ST 4 to 6 years, that's really when you start to learn how to develop your emergency medicine skills and work towards becoming a consultant. So that's really how the standard pathway of most doctors in the UK would work. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how it's slightly different if you're coming from elsewhere. It really doesn't matter which country you're coming from. Once you arrive, effectively, you've got 2 choices. Your first choice is actually, and a lot of people don't realize this, is it's simpler to join a training scheme. Now, the reason behind that is the training scheme is, because of the way that it's set up, relatively easy to finish. So if you get a training post in ST1, you pass all of the relevant exams, and you pass all of your assessments during your training, you will automatically get a CCT. So depending on your age, how long you've been working in emergency medicine in your own country, that should always be considered, because quite simply, it can be the simplest option. All right. The second option that you do have, if you've worked for a considerable length of time and you're that bit older, and you've come to the UK with a huge depth of skills, is you can go down the CSER route, which is a certificate of equivalence of specialist training. Now, that is not simple. It certainly can be done, but there is a huge amount of work that needs to happen. There's a huge amount of data, and there's a huge amount of documentation that needs to be prepared. To put things into perspective, you know, when you're submitting your application, you're looking at about roughly 1,000 pieces of paper. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to go into that. And basically, if you want to know about that, if you go to the GMC website, you'll find each of the colleges have put down exactly what they think you need to have to be awarded the CSER. It is very, very detailed, and it will take a long period of time for you to collect that information and for you to basically make the GMC and make the Royal College of Emergency Medicine happy and content that your training is the equivalent of a UK doctor and that you can go on to the specialist register. Now, the one thing about that is nowadays it would be exceptionally unusual for anyone to go onto the specialist register in the UK without having what we call the exit exam, or the final exam that all trainees in UK emergency medicine do. So that is the FR Chem. And basically that faculty examination, there are 2 components. There's a written component, and then there's an OSCE component. And effectively, everyone who's going to get onto the register, no matter where you go down the training route or the CSER route, will be expected to complete that. Okay. Now, with regards to CSER, a lot of departments I've noticed in England advertise for CSER fellows, and sometimes it almost seems like, you know, they're really trying to say this is okay, this is very straightforward, this is very easy. I would actually disagree with that. Seizure can be a very, very prolonged amount of effort, basically to try and complete your training. So depending on your level of experience, always think, would the training scheme be easier? Because the other way of looking at it, a lot of training schemes in the UK have vacant positions they can't fill. So it's not like you're going to be coming here after a couple of years, you're thinking, oh, I can't get a training job. There are actually empty training jobs out there as well. So always think about that as one of your options. The Caesar route can be done, but generally, if you, let's say, for example, you to arrive in the UK and you started in August, I would expect it would take a minimum of 3 to 4 years for someone to gather the information and go through that final FR Chem examination as well. So that'll give you a rough idea of where you are. And remember, a lot of this will be self-directed, and you'll have to gather the evidence, and you'll have to take evidence that you have from your own country, which may be difficult. You might have to get things translated. Remember, if we put that in perspective, the UK training scheme, ST1, ST6 finished. Okay, so that's why you always have to consider it. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Western Trust now. So what can we offer in the Western Trust? Well, to be honest, what we can offer is a nice stepping stone into the NHS. It's a nice friendly place. What we have, we'll start off with kind of the fringe benefits as such. The first thing is cost. So for example, if you wanted to come and live here and work here, it is considerably cheaper than the rest of the UK, both with regards to rent and both with regards to buying houses. We also have fantastic local primary schools. We have very good secondary schools as well, all of which are non-fee paying, and also very good universities as well. So for those who are considering moving with children, it's actually a great part of the UK to move to. With regards to the hospital as such, within the Western Trust, we've got 2 hospitals. We've got Altnagelvin and Southwest Acute. Altnagelvin would be the larger of the 2, and we would have pretty much everything on site that you need for an acute hospital. So we've got our own PCI cath lab. Effectively, the only things we don't have on site are neurosurgery, plastics, and cardiothoracic. Everything else is on site. So it's quite a friendly place. We have multiple international recruits from lots and lots and lots of different countries. We have doctors who've come here at consultant level who've stayed. We've had doctors who've come here at relatively junior level and have moved on to training posts elsewhere, both within Northern Ireland and within the UK. And all of that is good, because we're not the kind of place where we expect you to come along and this is it, you're going to stay forever. Unless you are the finished article and you're at consultant level, the reality is you're going to come here because you want to be trained. You're going to want to progress up the career ladder, and you may well want to go off and do a training program. That is perfectly fine. That is exactly what we expect. So it's kind of it's a quick general glimpse into what we can offer, what we do in the UK, and how things will probably be quite different from where you come from. So the floor is open to any questions at all you'd like to go ahead with.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you so much for that. With regards to the questions, actually, what would be great if you could put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we cover those, because I know that we're really keen for Adele to be able to add a bit more detail for what Brendan touched upon, some of the wonderful opportunities at Western Trust, and some of the more detail. So what I'll do is put it across to Adele to run through all of that and to tell you why the Western Trust is such a wonderful place to work. Over to you, Adele.
Thank you, Davinder. Thank you, Brendan, as well. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, following on from what Brendan was saying, we've got some reasons listed here of why you should come to the Western Trust. I mean, firstly, a good reason is that, as Brendan's saying, they're very friendly, very supportive. You've actually got a dedicated international medical recruitment team within a HR whose focus is to support you. Now, we work with many trusts across the UK, and that's not always something that you will see. So you really have the benefit of a dedicated team that is here, and their job is to focus on your recruitment process and then your relocation and settling you into the trust and making sure that it's as smooth as possible. So some of the things that you will benefit from are, once you arrive, you will have a welcome tour on arrival. You'll go into the departments and meet with your clinical supervisor and your colleagues, and start to get a feel for where you're going to be working. Usually that's done straight away whilst you are waiting for your occupational health check results to come back for you to be cleared to start working. At this time, you will also receive a comprehensive bespoke induction. The trust also put in place a buddy system. So you will be paired up with a doctor in the department. And this is just to give you someone else to go to with your questions in addition to your clinical supervisor. And sorry, just seeing the chat box there. And yeah, just gives you another person to go to with your questions and seek support from. The trust have organised clinical attachments when requested previously. Again, with the idea that I think just to help smooth that process for when you start and aid the familiarisation process. They also carry out progress and development reviews at the end of the first month and at the end of the third month. Now, this is beneficial because, you know, you get to sit down with your supervisor and just make sure that you are progressing in the way that you want. You know, if there are any areas where you sort of feel you need a bit more support or a bit more help or training, then you can put these plans, they can be put into practice and actions taken to do this for you. Something else the trust offer is a peer support network. So there are monthly meetings, virtual meetings, with all your international doctor colleagues. So slightly more informal, and it's just really a forum for you to be able to speak to your colleagues, ask any questions, or seek support, you know, from your peers. There's also something which is a bit more structured, and this is the Ethnically Diverse Network. And this is a platform for you to raise any questions or discuss any issues or concerns you might have, or, you know, ask for support or advice. And these meetings are attended, you know, there are lots of different sort of people within the workforce, so clinical staff, nurses, admin staff, management. And again, just another place for you to be able to seek answers to your questions. So what I would say, you know, the trust have been doing international recruitment for a number of years now. And all this has been put in place because they've learned over the years that you know, this time and effort to put in place something that is here to support you fully. And as I say, this is not something that you're going to receive and benefit from necessarily with all trusts throughout the UK. So it really is very beneficial. Ellen, can we go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So we have some other reasons as to why you should really consider coming to the Western Trust. As Brendan was saying, it's a trust that encourages your career development. You know, it can be a stepping stone if you want to carry on and complete, you know, fulfill your training ambitions. But also, you know, it's a great place if you are, you know, if you are a consultant, you're coming and you want to stay, then certainly, you know, we've seen consultants do that and they're happy and settled. And again, the very reasonable cost of living, you know, it's a valid point, a very big point, and a very powerful reason as to why you should seriously consider it. The simple fact is your money will go further. And I can give you an example of that in that your biggest cost is likely to be your accommodation every month. And so say, for example, you're coming across with your family and you want to rent a 3-bedroom property. You'd probably be looking at about £700 a month for a good house. If you wanted the best and top of the range, you'd probably be looking at something like £1,000 a month. And then if we compare that to other parts of the UK, so for example, London or Southern England, which are often popular destinations, you're looking at least double that, and in a lot of cases, 3 times that amount. So, I mean, it really is a massive difference. And we talk to doctors all the time, you know, obviously looking for jobs. And some of these doctors are already in London and the south of England, and they want to move because it's too expensive. And so, you know, really do bear that in mind, because it is a big consideration. Northern Ireland is a beautiful country. You know, it's a great work-life balance. As Brendan mentioned, the Trust have 2 acute hospitals. One of them is in Londonderry, Altnagelvin Hospital, which is a city. So you have all the benefits of city living, but also, you know, you have beautiful countryside on your doorstep. You know, there's beaches, rolling hills, mountains. We did have a video that we were hoping to play for you, but we were having a few technical issues earlier. But I think we've got a link that we will either put in the chat or we'll send on to you afterwards so that you can actually see what we're talking about. But it is a beautiful place. The other hospital in Enniskillen it's a town, so it's a more rural setting, but it's a very, very popular tourist destination. I think it's known for its many lakes, and sort of, you know, slightly more calmer, you know, laid back lifestyle. So lots of boating, fishing, water sports, golf. So more the holiday sort of leisure side of things. But both places are actually very close, you know, an hour and a half away from Belfast, from the capital city. So depending on what you're looking for, you know, there's something for everyone there. Again, coming on to schools, Brendan touched on it. Again, it's a very big, powerful point to make. And we know from talking to you, we talk to you all the time. You tell us your reasons why you want to come to the UK. It's to work in the NHS, you know, as one of the best healthcare systems in the world. But it's also about your family. It's about your children's futures. And you want to come to the UK schools. So the big point to make is the fact that, yes, the schools are excellent, but they're also free of charge. The schools score highly in the league tables for GCSEs and A-levels, but it's actually free. You don't have to pay for it. To have the same experience in England, if you want to go to the best schools, you have to pay to go to private schools. And to tell you exactly how much that costs, depending on the level that you're going at and the age, you're looking at anything from £10,000 a year up to £20,000 a year per child. So if you've got a few children that you want to put through school, that's really, you know, adding up. So as I say, the schools are excellent. So do bear that in mind as well. Going back to something else that the Trust offer is they have a fairly comprehensive relocation package and additional benefits for you. And again, comparing it with other trusts elsewhere, not all of them offer such comprehensive packages. So it is something that, you know, is put in place for your benefit. They will contribute to your initial relocation costs up to £1,200. If you are staying at the Trust and you settle, you're happy, you're getting the training that you need, or, you know, you've decided that it is the place for you. Once you're there for 2 years and you're still in post, then you at that point are eligible to apply for relocation costs up to £10,000. The last point here is the salary advance. Again, because this is a trust that knows what they're doing with international recruitment, you know, they know how expensive it is. There are so many costs involved with you relocating countries. And so they have a scheme which is to offer a salary advance for you on arrival, which can be organised once you've set up your UK bank account. I think it can, you know, the application form can be processed within a month, sorry, not a month, within a week. And the payment going into your UK bank account. So you can apply for up to 1 month's salary, and that's a maximum of £4,000. The last point on the slide here is accommodation. Again, not all trusts offer this. Some trusts expect you to find your own accommodation before you come. And it is the trust policy that where available, they do have hospital accommodation at both sites, Altona Gelvin Hospital and Southwest Acute Hospital. And where there is availability, they will offer that to you on a short-term basis, up to 3 months, to give you a stepping stone. And what happens is once you arrive, we will work with you to help you find a local rental property to move into for the longer term. Okay, so next slide. This slide is really just to answer some questions, because every time we talk to doctors, we get asked this. So we just thought we'd include this. You know, we get asked, what are the ethnic communities like in Londonderry and Enniskillen? And they're growing communities. Working at the trust, as Brendan mentioned, you know, there are many doctors from many different countries. You know, we've listed a few of them here: India, Pakistan, Egypt, Sudan, Trinidad, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, etc. And as I say, many more countries as well. An interesting and good initiative is actually outside of the trust and the hospital environment. The local council has a good relations initiative, and this is to provide support for ethnically diverse staff outside of the hospital. And the trust partner with the council to promote local events and provide useful information. There are also mayor's receptions every year in both locations for the council and the community to show their appreciation and celebrate the contribution of international doctors within the trust. The last point here is we often get asked about places of worship. So within both hospitals, there's a dedicated prayer room located in a quiet place, quiet part of the hospital in both hospitals. And this is open to all religions as well. There's an Islamic centre in Londonderry. There's also a Muslim community in Enniskillen. And I know that we can put you in contact with, I think they have a Facebook group, so we could put you in contact with that. But I know that they are currently raising money to obtain a building for a new mosque in Enniskillen. And for the other religions, there's many other churches and places of worship as well. So yeah, you will be covered there. Next slide.
Okay. Adele,
yeah.
Adele, I just asked Brendan, are you okay time? Because I know there's a number of questions. Are you going to be okay for the next 20 minutes or so, Brendan, still?
I'll probably have to leave in the next 5 minutes or so, Devendra, to go to another meeting, but I'm just answering as many as I can before I go.
Okay, well, Adele, if that's the case, if there's a few of those questions, are you okay for Brendan to maybe see some of those questions? Try and talk through. Are you okay, Brendan, to do that?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, so where should we begin? I know that, Brendan, you've been there's a number of questions about the MTI scheme. Adele and Brendan, would you like to cover that for us?
Well, really, Devendra, now, as I say, unless you have equivalent training with examinations, it's very unlikely that anyone is going to be able to work at consultant level in the UK. Now, specifically in India, they have the MRChem and the FRChem examinations. So I think without those, there's probably very little opportunity to work at consultant level. If you wanted to work at registrar level and move towards that, that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking in terms of the MTI scheme as a form and a pathway to get your GMC, then technically, yes, there is that option available. But what I would say is in reality, the practice of that is it's pretty rare. Because what has to happen is any trust that is going to offer an MTI sponsorship, there has to be an approved training program in place that's approved by the Royal College and by the GMC, and a license has to be issued. I mean, there is a link, a web page on the GMC website of the different MTI sponsorship opportunities available, but it's really very narrow and it's really, you know, quite specific. And my advice to anyone is to follow the main pathways to registration. And as Brendan's been saying, you know, the better way or the simplest way or easiest way for working towards, you know, getting to a consultant is to complete the MRChem, FRChem qualification.
Excellent.
As I was saying earlier, don't forget about the standard training routes for the simple reason it's actually easier to complete. It's no other way. The Royal Colleges and the GMC, depending on the specialty that you want to work in, have in some cases been very different in how they've interpreted what you have to provide. Emergency medicine is quite onerous in the level of detail required. And as I say, if you progress through the training scheme and there's a thing called an ARCP panel every year, that simply means, you know, you will get there without any significant problems.
Brilliant. Brendan, there's a couple of points here, and I'd like to get your thoughts on or advice for the interview itself. Is there any advice that you can share with our doctors about the interview themselves? Any to prepare and make sure things that they have covered? Any guidance on that, please?
So the interviews that I do are entirely 100% clinical. So if you're applying for a job as a junior doctor, the level of detail and basically the level of your answers, I would expect would be a lot more basic than if you're applying to be a middle grade doctor. So if you're applying to be a middle grade doctor, I would expect that you will be able to manage a trauma patient relatively independently for at least the first 10-15 minutes, and likewise an unwell child or an unwell adult. So although we wouldn't be leaving you at any time clinically unsupervised, we need to know that you would be emergency safe for the first 10 to 15 minutes as a middle grade for effectively an unselected patient. And that would be pretty much what we'd expect from a UK trained doctor as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brendan. I think that there's a couple of questions here with regards to experience. I think Brendan mentioned previously on the chat that, you know, international candidates are pretty much always coming without NHS experience, and that's the reason for this pathway. But that said, we do have doctors working in the UK who choose to come to the Western Trust after learning how a wonderful trust it is, and supportive trust. So it certainly is available for candidates with experience of the NHS, but open to candidates with the right motivation and experience and desire to join without that NHS experience as well. Dr. Lavery, was there anything else in the questions that you wanted to answer? I think there's a few around the CSER element.
Yeah, I was just typing. So basically, it'll require an equivalence to UK training. Now, as I say, because we have an exit exam as part of the UK trainees, where they have to do the FRChem examination, it's inconceivable that anyone doing the CSER route will be able to get that without the FRChem. So everyone has to do the exam. That's simply the way that it has to be. There's a couple of questions there. I see Elise is asking about competition ratios. Now, the competition ratios, if you go on to the deaneries, so basically Northern Ireland recruits in emergency medicine itself, as do England, Scotland and Wales. They recruit as a 1. And if you go onto the website, you'll find the competition ratio. So, for example, in certain areas, let's say in rural South Wales, it is likely that they will have free and vacant positions in the less popular areas. Whereas, for example, the most popular area would be London. They will simply have very few vacancies. So it's very dependent on which deanery you apply for. But that is all available if you go through the deaneries' websites.
Brilliant. Thank you. We've also had a comment here about the salaries in the NHS and stuff. And look, it's fair to comment on that, and that's one of the reasons that Adele was talking about the value in working at the Western Trust and the benefits you can get financially from being there for the cost of living. So yes, you know, the salaries you know, are a big part of the discussion, but also your outgoings and the spending, what that equates to, it matters. So again, why Western Trust is a great.
What I would say to Winner, I'd actually argue the salaries aren't low. So there's a new contract that's come in. It's a new specialty doctor contract, and if you actually look at the salaries, they're actually pretty good. And remember, that's only for 40 hours basic. So if you're doing anything over 40 hours, you'll get paid more on top of that. The old specialty doctor contract, absolutely appalling salaries. Took a very long time for you to get up the pay scale. It's very, very different now. So if anybody wants to if you go to the BMA website, you'll see the new contract there. And anyone who's hired within the UK and within the Western Trust, what we do is we take your years of experience and we add that. So you can more or less work out what your starting UK salary will be. And remember, that'll only be your salary for a standard 40 hours. If you work out of hours or 48 hours, you'll have an additional 20% on top of that.
Brilliant, and that's absolutely correct. I think that there is the opportunity to supplement your salary with additional work, and as we all know, there is plenty of opportunities in emergency medicine, short term and long term. So, thank you for that, Brendan. So, I think, is there any other questions here, Adele, that we need to discuss, or anything else, Brendan, that you would like to share? Because again, I'm conscious that you've got somewhere to be.
No, just to say, look, it's a friendly spot. It's a nice place in the world to live. If you get any small kids, it's pretty good as well. Not a bad place to work, honestly. So I think on that note, I will move on. Sorry, I've got another meeting to go to.
Dr. Laverick, just before we go, do we have an interview date coming up in the next couple of weeks? Because I'm sure that there'll be interest. Or should we catch up on that afterwards? Or do you have anything? There will
be now. Anastip Banerjee, one of my substantive consultants. He's actually an Indian lad who did his specialist training here in the UK, and he's now one of our substantive consultants. I'm moving to a different role, so he's going to take over the interviews. He's off on holidays for 2 or 3 weeks, but then once he comes back, we'll get that sorted out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Laverick, for being here today and sharing all that valuable information. Thank you so much.
Okay, not a problem. Thanks. Bye. Bye, Adele. Bye, Devender.
Thank you. Okay, guys, Adele, we'll continue, if you could, with the information that you were sharing about the trust and how we can support people and registrations, etc. Over to you, Adele.
No, that's fine, and you know, we can come back and answer more questions at the end there, so that's okay. So I think we were at the point where I'd sort of talked about some of the powerful reasons of why you would want to come to the Western Trust. Once you've made that decision that you want to come to the UK, you know, the first thing you need to do is obviously work out your eligibility to get your medical license with the General Medical Council. And as Brendan's just been talking about CSER, obviously that's for specialist registration. The vast majority of doctors that get their GMC registration start off within the general register. And so to do this, the first thing you need to evidence various things. The first thing being your primary medical qualification. So you have to do this with an organisation that is separate to the GMC. So you have to set up an account with the ECFMG, which is the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. And then once you've set up your account, you upload your primary medical degree, and you need to complete EPIC, which is the electronic portfolio for international credentials. So what happens is you ask to verify that qualification, and the ECFMG contact your institution where you did that degree to verify the qualification, and then they will send a report to the GMC. There's various other documents and things that you need to evidence, such as your internship. You need a to provide a copy of your passport, certificate of good standing. You need to provide reports and evidence of what you've been doing for the last 5 years, you know, with exact dates and duties, all that information, and your fitness to practice. And you all also have to demonstrate your professional skills. And so the main routes of doing this, I know we've talked about the MTI scheme, but as we were saying, it's pretty rare to get GMC through the MTI scheme. The main ways of doing it are by far and away through the PLAB exams or completing, well, let me talk about the PLAB exams. So to do it, you need to first sit an English language test. Then you need to complete the first part of the PLAB exams, which is a theory exam, and you can do that in your home country, followed by a clinically based assessment at an assessment centre here in the UK through the GMC. And they've got an assessment centre in Manchester, and they also have one in London. And so once you've completed that, then they will process your GMC registration. The second very popular way is through completing an approved postgraduate qualification. And as we're talking about emergency medicine today, that is via MRChem or FRChem. And I know Brendan talked about that just earlier, about the pathways and what you need to do for that. The third way is, this has been introduced over the last year or two, is that you can complete an overseas medical licensing exam, but there's only 3 countries that they will accept it from. So that's either United States of America, Canada, or Australia. And you'll see the abbreviations there, USMLE, MCCQE, or the AMC. And you also have to demonstrate your English language. And again, the most common, by far and away, the most common ways of doing this, and you know, the quickest way of doing this is to sit either the OET exam or the IELTS exam. There are a couple of other ways of doing it, but again, they're more subjective, they're harder, and they're not necessarily quick and easy. You need to provide robust evidence. So again, most trusts will point you back, because also they want the reassurance that you've carried out, you know, and completed an exam to test your English language skills. So again, most people, most trusts and the GMC strongly advise that you take either the OET exam or the IELTS exam. And the OET exam is an occupational exam. So you will need to sit the medical version of this exam, and you need to score a B in each area. So we're talking speaking, reading, writing, and listening. So 4 Bs are required for the OET exam. And the other exam is the IELTS exam, the International English Language Testing System. And for this one, you need to score no less than a 7 in each area. Again, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And no less than an overall score of 7.5. Okay, so once you've completed all of that and you submit all your documents and they will process your registration, that's really at the point where we will start working with you to send your CV out to be considered for jobs. Do you want to move on to the next slide, Ellen? Thanks. And this one's really about what you will receive from us. What do we do for you? So we support you literally from the initial conversation that you have with us, and we will be with you every step of the way, all the way through the recruitment process, through the relocation process, through to you arriving and settling in to the point where you don't need us anymore. We are there every step of the way. And the advice and support and guidance that we provide really enables you to have a smooth journey and makes it so much less stressful and challenging. As you know, Devinda said at the very beginning, we've been doing this for a number of years now, many years, and we know the processes and we know everything that's required and involved, and we're here to give you the benefit of that experience and that knowledge. So we will advise and guide you right from sending your CV off to be considered for jobs, through advise and guide you through shortlisting, interviews, receiving your offers, understanding your offer, accepting it, and then the completion of all the pre-employment paperwork and documentation that has to be done, and the checks that are required before you relocate to take up your post. We support and advise you and answer all your questions relating to visa applications. Again, we work with the trust and yourselves to help you organise your accommodation before you come over. And then when you're here, we'll work with you and help you find a suitable local rental property. Again, we have local knowledge and give you the benefit of that to assist you with schools and childcare if you have a need for that. And really the last points here is probably the most important, really. And the feedback that we get from every doctor that comes and experiences this is that without it, they wouldn't have been able to do it. We have local colleagues that are based in those locations, in Londonderry and Enniskillen. You will physically meet someone in person from our company who will be with you every step of the way from when you arrive and take you through all the processes and things that you need to complete to get yourselves up and running and settled in your new job, new environment, new home, your children in the new schools, and you settling in your new lives. And that includes things like going with you to collect your BRPs, for your visas, registering with the police. We'll go with you to open a bank account, to register with a GP. If you need information or advice on buying cars, whatever it is, we are there, and we are there to help and assist you throughout this. And as I say, the feedback that we receive is that it's really priceless. And yeah, that's part of our service, and that's what we can do for you. So I think on that, I'm going to pass back to Devinda, and I think maybe is there one or two more questions, or?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple more. I'd just like to just follow that a little bit and just stress that the reason that we talk about the support and why it's so important, because it really does matter, and we really truly hope that you join us at the Western Trust and begin your careers there. But I would say to you that please do consider these things in your next step. You deserve to be supported. The fact, you've worked very hard to get to this point in your lives, and and we're really thankful that you're coming or considering coming to the UK, the NHS, to help us. And you deserve to be supported. So wherever you go, make sure, please do your research, that you are going to get that support from the trust or from whoever's representing you, because it matters, and have that as part of your process, because it can be the difference between success and maybe failure, and it really does matter. So please do bear that in mind. If you do have, you're on Pathways and you have other questions to ask, you can always come to us and ask for informal advice, regardless if you're working through us or not. We're not here just solely as a business. We are here to support and to guide, and we would offer that to you regardless if you do not take up this one of the positions at the Western Trust. We are here. So we just wanted to make that point to you all. So Adele, what are there anything in particular in the chat that you want to? I think there's one about the PLABs. I think you're better suited to answer that.
Sorry, which one is that? I was just scrolling, trying to see are there questions that we haven't answered.
Well, there's one from Sharina, which is, could you explain about the UK? I think it's the about passing the PLAB exam in different parts. Have you got that, Adele?
You read it out? Where are we? Stuff on Caesar.
Yeah, the newest one. It's
one. Okay, right at the bottom. What if we pass our PLAB one? I need to complete the plan. I need to take. Are you, Srina, are you talking about the USMLE exam there?
I think so.
No, so the UK medical licensing is out. Okay, so you're talking about the PLAB. So what if we pass our PLAB within 2023, and if I need to appear for a PLAB within... So there is, yes, there is basically there's a time limit on it. And I think you do have to, off the top of my head, I thought it was 2 years, unless it's changed. I would need to double check it. But yes, you pass PLAB 1, and then you have a certain period of time to book your PLAB 2. If that time period expires, unfortunately, you do then have to go back and sit PLAB 1, the PLAB 1 again. So I hope, yeah, that makes sense. We can, you know, what we can do, if we've got your contact details, we can check the information, and we can message you afterwards. We can get in contact with you afterwards to fully answer any questions as well, I think.
Brilliant. I would also, sorry, Adele, just if you do have any more sort of clinical based questions that Adele and I would not be able to answer, we are happy to get those, and Brendan has expressed that he's more than happy to answer those questions in the future. So do share those questions with us, or speak to your consultant at Zander Hendricks Healthcare, and we'll make sure for that.
Yeah, we'll get the answers and get in touch with you and email them to you afterwards if we can, if need be. Yeah.
So I think that okay. So Dr. K, a question that. So Dr. K, I think the question that you had regarding complaints and how that's structured within the NHS, I believe, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find the actual question itself. Look, that's something that I think it would be better that Brendan is able to come back to you and explain with regards to the processes internally for, you know, allegations or complaints about bullying. I think that's something that Brendan would be able to answer for you. So please do drop us an email or get in touch with the consultant, and we'll make sure that's answered for you, Dr. K. That's wonderful. I think there were some other questions here about locum work and stuff to supplement salaries. There's plenty of locum opportunities available to increase your salaries. It's, you know, the NHS is short of staff. There are always ways to earn more money through locum work, and certainly that's something that the trust themselves, the Western Trust, can guide you with internally as well. It's not necessarily that you...
I think there is an app, I think, called Locum's Nest, and so you can just register on that and work additional shifts. If you're happy to do additional hours outside of, you know, what you're contracted to, then absolutely, you know, you're able to work as many shifts as you know, as is feasible. So yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. I think we've pretty much covered everything there. I mean, if there are any questions, please do let us know, and we'll get to them. I think that's about everything covered. So could you put the last screen slide on, Ellen? But thank you. Look, we do have, as Brendan had said, as Adele said, there are lots of vacancies in emergency medicine at the Trust, at all levels and all grades. The opportunities are there. So please do get in contact with us for that. As Brenda mentioned, will be interview dates will be coming up within the next few weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks maybe. So we can arrange that for you. And as you know, the Trust has other positions they're recruiting for. So if you have friends or families that are considering working as a doctor in a different specialty, please do put them forward or put yourselves forward, and we'd be happy to hear from you, as there are other options available. With regards to the interview, I know Brendan gave you a little bit of an insight. I think from our perspective, it's really important that you know, you prepare for the interviews, and of course you've got the clinical elements that you know that is the questions, but also just the fundamentals. You know, prepare, research. You know, and they put that effort in because it matters, you know. So you know, of course, go in there with all the clinical knowledge that you've learned over the years to share that, but also, you know, prepare for it as you would any other interview, you know, to research the client and the processes, and do ask us for help and guidance prior to interview, which we will offer and do. So think that's it. Adele, anything else you'd like to share?
I think we've probably covered it, I think. But as I say, if there is anything or you think of anything, any other questions, as I say, if we've missed any of the questions there, we will, I know you've all registered and you've been talking to our consultants, so we will be able to get in touch with you. We will follow up and answer those questions. And as I say, if there is anything further that you think of afterwards, do get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions as well. And continue that way.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adele, and thank you for all of you attending today. It's you know, we're really taken aback by the fact that you're interested in coming here to the NHS and supporting us. You know, it really matters. You know, we're really thankful that you're considering making that step. It really does mean a lot. So anything that we can do to support you on that journey, we'd be happy to do. Any questions that you have following this, please do speak to your consultants, or email us directly. We'll put a general email address in the chat box, info email address. You can contact us through that. But I think that's everything. So thank you so much, everybody, once again. And we hope to see you in Northern Ireland soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.